I had a request. Somebody wanted more detail on the speedometer on the car. This is a Stewart model 24 or 26. I'm not quite sure which one it is. But the thing about this speedometer is that the ratio of the speedometer is 2.5 to 1. One of the giveaways is the odometer reading is you see they're kind of rectangular where the numbers are in. That's the difference between the 2.5 and the earlier one. There were little circles where the digital readout was in it, and that's a 1-to-1 ratio. So this was a little bit later one. What I did was I picked up some of the fittings from Model T's parts supplier. Let me get closer so you can see it. Model T parts supplier. I picked up that part right there, which is the furl for the cable, and I'm going to come around. Right now I'm inside the trailer, and I picked up the flex cable. I forget how much it was per foot. It was fairly expensive, and I ended up using. You can buy the intersection from the Model T supplier, and I used my own inner. I had picked up a speedo cable, the old style flexible cable, and I put an inner sleeve in it also, so it would rotate. The wheel end of it, again, it's a Model T fittings for the speedo cable. This is the Model T part right here, and the part that I machined, several parts. I machined this bracket assembly right here. This here I machined, and I machined this section here. So this would slip inside, and there's a set screw right there, and I could adjust so I can get this gear to line up with this gear. I used the existing brake rotor, and I machined the involute spur gear out of it. Calculated the number of teeth that were needed for the ratio that I wanted. I think this is 1.375 ratio. And then I machined the takeoff gear, which is aluminum. That one there, that gear is you can't use the existing rotors that come with the car. It's hardened steel, and I tried machining it, and I ruined the cutter. So I ended up picking up a piece of cast iron and making a new rotor, and that was much easier to machine the involute gear out of. The upper one is an aluminum plate that I had, and I machined it for the number of teeth that were needed. I do have more detail on the number of teeth. If you do your calculations on involute spur gears, it's pretty straightforward. I could, come up with the calculations. I did the calculations. I saved them, so I do have them. It tells you the pitch and number of teeth you need for both gears. What happens on the earlier cars, there wasn't a swivel joint at this location. It was fixed, and they put a loop in the cable, so when you steered, the cable would move, and that's how they did it. And that leather strap is kind of how they did it also for the earlier cars. So that's the way this one was done. I kind of tried to duplicate some of the earlier cars that were done, and I was consistent with it. A lot of machining of parts to make the speedo work. Let me come around the outside so you can see that and shoot it through the spokes, and you can see right there. Let me back up. And what I did with the way this upper gear is held in place is there's a cotter pin that slides through. That's very similar to the way the Model T was done. Now the Model T, the top gear was a much smaller one because the bottom gear in the Model T was much larger. I had to use the existing discs that were on the car, so that forced me to do calculations and come up with a larger top gear because of that, to get the ratio that I needed. So that's kind of it with the speedo. It works very well. It's, you know, it's not 100. It may be off a mile an hour or so, but it does work very well. Typically, I drive the car 15 to 20 miles an hour when I'm driving, and the speedo certainly does help. So that's it for this video. There'll be more coming along, and I will be posting them.